You have the belt currently. That's been good for you. You won last year handily. You won all three of our categories or scoring factors, and I'll get into what those were in a second, just as a refresher. I won the year before that, which was our first year, so this is a tie-breaking year. We've both won once. This last season, there were some interesting trends in the IMDb ratings. The average score across all of the movies we drafted was a 6.58, so generally pretty good. Only one of those movies was over an 8 out of 10. You could probably guess which movie that was.
Yep.
7 of the movies we drafted combined was under a 6 out of 10. So we definitely had 7 stinkers. I had 4 of the bottom 5, and you had 3 of the top 5. So you did, I think, quite well, and I did quite weird. I've also tended to do well in the box office the last couple of years.
I don't get how you pull this off.
I always pick the movies that go over $1 billion. You had your first $1 billion movie this year, congratulations.
I know.
The average, I would say, actually, the average of all the movies that we drafted was $363 million. That average is heavily pulled upwards by the 2 movies that went over $1 billion. We had several movies that were under $100 million, and our average difference between the critics and the audience was a positive 14%, meaning audiences liked it 14% more than critics did. So tend to pick movies that audiences liked more. There were 6 movies of the 30 that we drafted that critics liked more, so ended up giving us a negative score. But you also had 3 of the top 5 that had over 40% difference.
Okay.
So a critic would give it like 10%, and audiences would give it like 50% or something like that. My 6th round pick feels like a steal.
How did this go
Inside
over
Out.
$1 billion? I just don't understand this one.
Almost $2 billion, $1.7 billion for Inside Out 2. Your sleeper pick, I would say, was The Wicked Part 1, which I don't know that either of us expected to do great.
No, that was, when I picked it, it was a complete, well, I know the books were popular, and I know the stage play was huge, so...
Of the worst movies we drafted of the year, which is kind of a longer list.
There it is! God, what a craptastic 2 hours that was.
If you go way back and listen to the movies that we drafted episode, we both said, there's no chance that we will like this. There's no chance it makes sense to do this movie or do a sequel at all. But the first one made over $1 billion.
Right.
And so people might take a chance on it. I chose Borderlands partly because it seemed so difficult to screw up. They have an established series of games with great writing, great world building, great style, great everything. Do that. They didn't, for some reason. I think the worst movie of the year, with a 4.6 on IMDb,